I stood frozen in the hallway of our suburban Chicago home, my hand gripping the strap of my purse, my heart pounding like it might stop. My son Ethan, his voice ice cold, spat out words I'll never forget. Mom, just die. I don't care. Those words sliced through me, tearing apart the years I'd sacrificed, working two jobs to raise him, skipping meals so he could eat. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just turned, walked out of the house that once echoed with laughter, leaving behind groceries, laundry, and a shattered heart. But as the door clicked shut, something strange stirred inside me. Relief. Was I abandoning my son, or had he pushed me out of his life? Ethan, 27, had fallen for a TikTok scammer's promises of wealth. He called me a loser, stole my money, and now I faced a crossroads. Let him go or try to save him. This isn't just a mother's pain, it's my journey to reclaim myself. What would you do if the person you love most turned their back on you? Our little house in Naperville, where Ethan and I once shared simple moments, had become a battlefield scarred by invisible wounds. I'm Linda, 62, and I poured my life into raising Ethan. From the days he held my hand in the park as a toddler to the nights I stayed up worrying about his college fees. I worked days at the grocery store, delivered packages at night just so he could have new sneakers or a birthday cake he loved. But that day, those precious memories vanished, replaced by Ethan's hateful voice. He stood there, eyes blazing, pointing at me like I was the enemy. "You never wanted me to succeed," he screamed before delivering the blow that left me numb. "Just die." I looked at him, searching for the little boy who hugged me when he was scared. All I saw was a stranger, lost in a fantasy I couldn't pull him back from. It all started 3 months earlier, when Ethan, who never held a job for more than a few months, became obsessed with a TikTok mentor. This guy with slick hair and a flashy gold watch flaunted fancy cars and stacks of cash. Money isn't everything, he'd say. Confidence is the key. Ethan bought it hook, line, and sinker. He watched those videos on repeat, screenshotting every post like they held the secret to riches. I noticed him change. He stopped helping with chores, didn't pay his share of the rent, and started throwing around weird phrases like scarcity mindset and energy vampire. I tried to warn him that online promises aren't always real, that I'd seen scams like this when I worked at the bank. But Ethan just smirked. "You're just jealous because I'm about to outshine you." Those words stung worse than a slap. I'd given up my youth to give him a home, but to him I was a roadblock. I remembered nights in the kitchen, pinching pennies to pay bills while Ethan slept soundly. I remembered skipping my own meals so he'd have enough. But now he saw me as the enemy, as if my efforts meant nothing. I tried to stay calm to reach the Ethan I knew, but he was too far gone. One morning, I checked my bank account and found $2,000, 0 cents, gone. Days later, another $4,000, 0 cents. My heart raced as I stormed into Ethan's room, statements in hand. "What did you do with my money?" I asked, voice trembling. He shrugged like it was no big deal. "It's an investment," he said. "You'll get triple back." I was stunned. An investment? With some guy on the internet he'd never met? I demanded he fix it, return the money within 24 hours. But Ethan wouldn't listen. He jumped up, pointed at my face, and yelled that I was holding him back, that I was an energy vampire, like his mentor said. And then, in a moment I'll never erase, he shouted, "Mom, just die. I don't care." The room went silent. I looked into his eyes, searching for a trace of the son I loved, but all I saw was anger and delusion. I didn't yell back, I didn't cry. I just smiled, not out of weakness, but because I knew it was time to let go. I grabbed my purse, phone, keys, and walked out. I didn't look back, didn't glance at Ethan standing there, maybe smug with victory. He thought I left because I'd lost. He didn't know I left because I was strong enough to let him face. As the door closed, I stepped onto the familiar Naperville street, where maple trees blazed red in the fall. The crunch of leaves under my feet seemed to whisper that I'd done the right thing. I didn't take clothes or belongings. I took only myself. Linda, the mom who'd given everything to her son, now choosing to love herself. I knew Ethan was drowning in a fake dream of wealth, manipulated by a scammer I tried to warn him about. I knew he'd stolen my money, called me a loser, and now thought he'd won. But I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I couldn't save him from himself. I wondered, would he realize his mistake when it all fell apart? Would he remember the meals I cooked, the times I held him when he cried, or would he chase his illusion until only loneliness remained? My story with Ethan isn't just a mother's heartbreak. It's a journey through betrayal, rediscovering strength, and learning to set boundaries, even with the person you love most. As I walked down that chilly street, I didn't know if I'd forgive Ethan or if he'd ever come back. But I knew one thing: I deserved to live, to be loved, to be respected. And if you're hearing this story, I want to ask, what did you do when someone you loved hurt you? Have you ever had to let go to find yourself? Join me in this story to see that even in the darkest moments, there's a light waiting. After that door in Naperville closed, I walked into the cold, my heart heavy, yet strangely free. Ethan's words, "Mom, just die," echoed like a wound that wouldn't heal. I, Linda, 62, had given my life to him, from late nights at the grocery store to skipping meals so he could eat. But now, he saw me as the enemy, caught in a TikTok scammer's web of lies. When I left, I knew Ethan was rushing toward a trap, but I couldn't pull him back. He'd chosen his path, and I could only watch from afar, wondering, how did the boy who once held my hand become such a stranger? Ethan's story isn't just youthful rebellion. It's a storm that swept him into darkness, where empty promises hid the truth. It started one spring afternoon when I saw Ethan glued to his phone, chuckling at the screen. "Mom, check this out," he said, showing me a TikTok video. A guy with slick hair and a white shirt stood by a fancy car flashing a wad of cash. "Money's not everything," he said. "Confidence is. You're stuck in a broken system, but I'll show you the way out." Ethan's eyes sparkled, like he'd found the answer to everything. I tried to smile, told him to be wary of online promises, but he brushed me off. "You don't get it, Mom," he said. "This is the future." From that day, Ethan changed. He wasn't the lazy but helpful kid who'd clear the kitchen on weekends. He became a stranger, lost in that mentor's world. The mentor, with his fake smile and glitzy watch, knew how to play on Ethan's insecurities. He preached that college was a scam for sheep, that parents who didn't support your dreams were energy vampires. Ethan ate it up, like those words explained every setback in his life. He'd worked at an auto shop, then a coffee shop, but never lasted long, always blaming his boss, coworkers, or the system. Now, this mentor offered an escape. You don't need to grind, just invest smart. Ethan spent hours on live streams, screenshotting posts, scribbling notes like he was studying for a big exam. I heard him muttering phrases like, "Scarcity mindset kills," "Only winners survive." I tried to warn Ethan. One evening, I sat beside him on the couch holding a mug of tea and said gently, "Honey, I've seen these tricks before. That guy's website is full of stock photos, and the countdown timer's just a pressure tactic." I showed him the site with fake reviews and images that looked lifted from Google. But Ethan wouldn't listen. He smirked, his eyes flashing with contempt. "You're just jealous," he said. "You don't want me to outdo you." Those words cut like a knife. I'd worked double shifts to give him a home, skipped buying clothes so he could have sneakers. But to him, I was a hurdle, a loser stuck in the past. I quietly stood, went to my room, my heart aching. I wondered, had I done something wrong to make him see me this way? Then the red flags grew. Ethan stopped doing chores, didn't pay rent, and slept until noon. He stayed up late, blasting motivational music, pacing his room like he was plotting something huge. I overheard him on Zoom with strangers shouting, "Let's go!" like he'd won a prize. He called himself a digital entrepreneur, bragging about funnel systems. When I asked what that meant, he glared, "Passive income, Mom." "You wouldn't get it," he said. "I got it. I just didn't buy it." I saw him falling into a trap, but every time I spoke up, he pushed me further away. One morning, I checked my bank account and found $2,000, 0 cents, gone. Days later, another $4,000, 0 cents. My heart pounded as I burst into Ethan's room, statements in hand. "What did you do with my money?" I asked, voice shaking. He shrugged, like it was nothing. "It's an investment," he said. "You'll get triple back. Don't blow it out of proportion." I was floored. An investment with some internet stranger? I told him to fix it, to return the money in 24 hours, but Ethan wouldn't budge. He shot up, pointed at my face, and yelled that I was holding him back, that I was an energy vampire, like his mentor said. And then, in a moment I'll never forget, he screamed, "Mom, just die! I don't care!" The room fell silent. I looked into his eyes, searching for my son, but saw only rage and delusion. I didn't yell back. I didn't cry. I smiled. Not from weakness, but because I knew it was time to let go. I grabbed my purse, phone, keys, and walked out. Ethan stood there, maybe thinking I'd given up. He didn't know I left because I was strong enough to let him face his mistakes. As I stepped onto the Naperville street, leaves falling, I wondered, would Ethan see the trap before it was too late? Would he realize his mentor wasn't a savior, but a thief stealing his future? I had no answers. But one thing was clear. I couldn't save him if he didn't want saving. And as I walked, I felt a spark in my heart, a spark of freedom, of choosing myself after years of living for him. When I stepped onto that Naperville street, leaves crunching underfoot, I carried a spark of freedom, but my heart still ached for Ethan. He'd chosen his path, diving headfirst into a TikTok scammer's trap, calling me a loser and stealing my money. I, Linda, 62, couldn't save him from his illusions, but I knew a hard truth. Ethan was racing toward darkness, and only when it all crashed would he see the light. From a distance, I heard about him through neighbors, social media posts, and the pain in my heart. Ethan's journey didn't end in the triumph he dreamed of. It ended in loneliness, in a cold apartment where his boasts echoed like a curse. I wondered, would he realize what he'd lost before it was too late? After I left, Ethan thought he'd won. He posted a video on Instagram, standing in the kitchen where I used to cook his favorite dinners, holding a mug that said "Boss Vibes" and grinning wide. "Cut out toxic people, no matter who they are," he captioned it. "Level Up season starts now." He blocked my number, deleted my contact, and bragged to his few hundred followers that he'd freed himself. I heard he let his 22-year-old girlfriend Mia move in. Mia, just as hooked on the mentor, believed they'd be a power couple. They filmed TikToks, Mia on Ethan's lap, calling him CEO while he flashed a stack of cash. I knew it was fake or borrowed. The mentor had taught them to project abundance, and they followed every word. But I knew, behind those glossy videos, Ethan was digging a deeper hole every day. He kept pouring money into the mentor, convinced a big payout was coming. He paid $99, 0 cents for a PDF course, then $250, 0 cents for a Zoom call where the guy flattered him. "You've got alpha energy, Ethan. I want to work with you long term." Ethan beamed, like he'd been crowned. But his money ran dry. He took out quick loans through apps with 30% monthly interest. I knew because the bank called, saying my old account was linked to 3 new loan apps. I'd locked my account, but Ethan didn't stop. He used his name, got 2 credit cards, and finally sent $9,000, 0 cents from his last loan to a shady company, Peak Pulse Ventures. The mentor promised a level up confirmation at 9 a.m. Ethan was sure this was his breakthrough, that he was about to be a millionaire. That day came and everything collapsed. I wasn't there, but neighbors told me, their voices heavy with pity. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, eyes glued to his laptop, sweat dripping, refreshing his inbox. 9 a.m. passed, then 10. No email, no text, no call. He checked Discord, where he'd bragged as a top student. The server was gone. Telegram was empty, all admins deleted. He rushed to the mentor's Instagram account. Vanished. YouTube, Twitter, all wiped clean, like the guy never existed. Mia, sitting nearby, asked, "You sent the money to a personal wallet? Got a receipt?" Ethan stammered, "They used crypto, no receipt needed." Mia stared, unblinking, then asked, "You got scammed, didn't you?" Ethan didn't answer. He sank to the floor, mind blank, the world crumbling beneath him. Mia didn't stay. She quietly packed her makeup, phone charger, jacket, and left. "I'm not sticking around for someone who lost everything to a guy named Peak Pulse," she said, her voice flat. Ethan begged, but she didn't look back. The door slammed shut behind her, a final note. Ethan sat there, the apartment reeking of burnt food from a stove he forgot to turn off. And loneliness settled in like ice. He opened a pile of ignored mail, loan bills jumping from $2,000, 0 cents, to $3,500, 0 cents, debt collector notices, an eviction warning in 7 days. He called the bank, pleaded to reverse the charges, but no luck. He texted Mia, blocked. He called old friends, no one answered. The mentor's support email bounced back. Everything was gone. That first night alone, Ethan didn't sleep. The router's blinking light warned him Wi-Fi was next to go. He looked around the dark apartment. No friends, no money. Just the echo of his boasts, now meaningless. Day 2. The power was cut. The fridge's stench filled the air. The apartment cold as a tomb. Ethan drove to a gas station, charged his phone in the parking lot, watching the battery icon crawl like it was mocking him. He tried selling his old camera, got $30, 0 cents, enough for instant noodles. By day 4, he found $150, 0 cents. I'd hidden behind a kitchen drawer. He took it without hesitation, spent it on food and a new scam channel promising financial recovery. That night, he stared in the mirror and said aloud, "I used Mom. No tears, just truth." He realized I'd cleaned his wounds every time he fell, but now he was alone not by chance, but by his own choices. When Ethan sank to the floor of that freezing Naperville apartment, eyes empty, he knew he'd lost it all. Money, Mia, the apartment, and me. The mom he told to just die. The TikTok mentor vanished with $9,000, 0 cents, leaving him with debt, eviction notices, and loneliness like a curse. He admitted to his reflection, "I use Mom." But I, Linda, 62, wasn't there to see it. I'd walked away from that house, carrying a broken heart, but finding a spark of freedom. I knew Ethan had to hit rock bottom to wake up, and I couldn't save him if he wouldn't save himself. While he drowned in darkness, I started rebuilding my life, not out of anger, but because I deserved to live, to be loved, to be respected. My journey wasn't just about rising from pain, but rediscovering myself. And when Ethan showed up at my door, I faced a choice: open it or let him face his consequences. After leaving that Naperville house, I crashed on my old friend Susan's couch in Chicago. Those first nights I lay awake, Ethan's "just die" replaying like a wound that wouldn't heal. But I refused to let pain consume me. I remembered my mom's words, "Linda, you can't change others, but you can choose how you live." I chose me. I landed an office job at a small company downtown. The pay wasn't much, but it covered a cozy apartment with a window overlooking a park. My coworkers, women my age, welcomed me with hugs and stories of their own families. One afternoon, they threw a little party, setting a cake in front of me with "Welcome back, Linda," written in frosting. I held a mug that said Survivor and smiled, feeling my heart lighten. For the first time in months, I wasn't just surviving, I was living. I built new routines. Every morning, I brewed coffee, sat by the window, and read or journaled. I joined a book club at the local library, meeting seniors who shared their stories, losing kids, spouses, yet finding joy. I learned to forgive myself, realizing I hadn't failed when Ethan turned away. I'd given him a mother's love, but he chose his path. I posted a photo on Facebook, standing with coworkers, smiling brightly. A friend commented, "Linda, you're glowing." I smiled, knowing that glow came from choosing to love myself, not waiting for Ethan to change. While I rebuilt, Ethan sank deeper. Naperville neighbors told me, their voices heavy, that his apartment was dark, power cut, fridge reeking. He lived on noodles, sold his camera for pennies, and stole $150, 0 cents I'd hidden in the kitchen. I wasn't angry. I was sad, knowing he wasn't ready to face reality. But then, one fall evening, as maple leaves blanketed the street, a neighbor texted, "Linda, Ethan's at your door." My heart clenched. I drove back, mind racing. Was he there to apologize or just beg for cash? Could I open that door after everything? When I arrived, Ethan was on the porch, scrawny, eyes red, hoodie pulled tight. He wasn't the guy flaunting boss vibes on Instagram. He looked like a lost kid shivering in the cold. He knocked, softly, then harder. But I didn't open right away. I stood behind the curtain, watching through a crack, my heart aching. I remembered little Ethan running to hug me after school, babbling about becoming an astronaut, but I also remembered Just Die and the $7,000 0 cents he stole. I wanted to rush out, hold him, say, "It'd be okay," but I knew forgiveness isn't handed out, it's earned, not with words, but actions. I let him sit there, not out of cruelty, but because he needed to feel the weight of what he'd broken. Ethan stayed on the porch all night, knees tucked, face buried in his hoodie. He knocked again, whispering, "Please." I heard but didn't open. I sat on the couch, clutching a cold coffee, wondering, was he truly sorry or just desperate with nowhere else to go? I recalled Susan's words, "Linda, your son needs to learn to stand, not lean on you." She was right. I didn't open the door, not because I didn't love Ethan, but because I loved him enough to let him grow. Through the curtain, I saw him look up as the porch light dimmed, hope flickering in his eyes, then fading. That's when I knew he was feeling real loneliness. Not from being alone, but from losing himself. The next morning, Ethan was still there, curled up like forgotten mail. I stood behind the door, took a deep breath, and told myself, I'm not doing this for him, but for me. I'd rebuilt my life, found peace, and I was strong enough to face him. But I was also strong enough to set boundaries. I knew opening the door wasn't instant forgiveness. It was a chance, not just for Ethan, but for us both. I wondered, would he have the courage to change? Could I love him without losing myself? The answers lay ahead. In the days he'd have to prove himself. And in my heart, where a mother's love still burned, despite the scars. Ethan was still there, curled on my Naperville porch like a forgotten package in the chilly fall wind. I'd Linda, 62, had rebuilt my life after he screamed, "Just die," and stole my money. I'd found an office job, new friends, and peace in my heart. Watching Ethan through the curtains, scrawny, eyes red, I knew he wasn't the guy boasting boss vibes on Instagram. He'd hit rock bottom, losing money, Mia, everything, to a TikTok scammer. But I didn't open the door right away. Forgiveness isn't a quick gift. I was strong enough to love him, but also to set boundaries. Standing behind that door, wondering if he could change, I knew our story didn't end in pain, but in a chance to learn how to love the right way. The next morning, I opened the door, not because I'd forgiven him, but because Ethan was still there, worn out, smelling of rain and regret. He looked up, eyes blurry, like he couldn't believe I was real. "Get up," I said, voice steady. "We're not talking out here." He shuffled inside, perched on the couch's edge like he was afraid to disturb anything. I poured him a glass of water, set it down, and waited. He whispered, "I was wrong, Mom. I lost everything." I nodded. No comfort, no blame. He asked, voice shaking, "Why'd you open the door?" I looked him in the eye and said, "Because this time you knocked like a man." Those words made him lower his head, shoulders trembling. He cried, not for pity, but because he finally saw the cost of what he'd destroyed. I didn't hug him, didn't promise it'd all be okay. I laid out the rules: a mattress in the spare room, a job list, 30 days to prove himself, no excuses, no lies. "I deserve worse," he said, voice choked. I replied, "You do, but this is all I've got left." This wasn't the start of a fairy tale ending. It was a tough road where Ethan had to learn to stand, and I learned to love him without losing myself. Our story taught me that love sometimes means setting boundaries, and forgiveness is a journey, not a destination. I'd cried enough months ago. Now, I just wanted to see him become the man I always believed he could be. In Chicago, amid streets glowing with Christmas lights, I realized strength isn't in holding tight, but in letting go at the right time. Ethan's starting over one small step at a time, and so am I. If you're hearing this story, I want to ask, have you ever forgiven someone who hurt you? What boundaries did you set to protect your heart? Share your story in the comments. Everyone's alive for someone else. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys that inspire. Thanks for being here, and I hope we'll meet again.